I'm going to Alaska.
Hello, my name is the Virgin Plague, or Mr. Egg. There's a couple things that I'm doing now that I finally started to settle down and gather my thoughts. Was to tell everybody about Alaska, the last frontier. So, what I'm going to do is a couple different videos segments. You know, if somebody gets something out of it, I'm very happy that I helped you out. There's a lot of decisions that you have to make when you're coming here. I came from the eastern seaboard from New Jersey. New Jersey has about 9.267 million, roughly. About 7,354 square miles of land. That's a big number. Alaska has 665,000 acres. I mean miles. I'm sorry, acres. Oh my goodness, miles of land, and the population's about 730,000 or 732,000. I don't want to be fact checked on the wrong numbers because it's, you know, some people are a little silly, but it's definitely a culture shock. It's a definite different place. When you're coming here or planning, you definitely want to plan hard. It's not a move up the street. You're going to learn a lot of different things up here that are different from any other part of the U.S. We're going to touch bases on this segment just on getting ready for the move or deciding to come up here versus maybe the next couple segments might have to deal with, shopping, groceries, etc. Not really off the grid. I'm about a couple miles from a local town, and we'll probably dig into that in the next couple of segments I put up. So it's not for everybody to come up here. How do you get here is a big thing. You got a land route. You go up into Canada, up onto the Yukon territories, come through the side of Alaska. There's only 3 roads here, so you really can't get lost. It's a big circle. It almost looks like a peace sign with the other connectors in it. So, with that being said, everybody thinks that we live in the Arctic Circle. I don't live in the Arctic Circle. It's a good couple 100 miles away from me. When it starts, I am close to civilization, the best way to put it. Do your homework. Like I said, we're going to break this into a couple different sections out. And some of the things you got to look at is this really for me? They do have a big moving in and moving out of this state. Again, because a lot of people like the thought they hit that first winter and the difference in temperatures are maybe what they're used to. And they're like, I'll see you later. I'm out of here. So it definitely is a change of scenery for you. So doing the homework starts with planning and trying to figure out, is this really for me? You know, you sit down and you look at it and you say, wow, this is God's country. You know, Discovery Channel, all these people have these shows like Off the Grid and Life Below Zero, and it's really nice because a lot of it is life below zero. And it depends on where you go. The further north you go, right around now it's 22 degrees outside here, and it's a midday versus maybe, I don't know, maybe 3 below by Fairbanks. I'm not sure what today's weather is up there. So, how to plan it. Come up and check it out. It's definitely something somebody should have in their bucket list is to come up to here, especially if you come from a very populated area, um, and check out the wilderness. You know, there's a lot of camping sites, a lot of things you can do if you're an outdoors person. If you're one of those shopaholics that likes to go to the mall, I don't think you're going to like it up here. Um, Moving companies, we went into the thought of coming up here was for jobs and working in New Jersey in a couple different um, positions, I guess would be the best way to say it, is this was definitely a left turn. I like the outdoors in New Jersey. 25, 30 years ago, Central Jersey was pretty much smaller in numbers than what it is today. A lot of people like to move, so they move out of the city, they come to the burbs. The burbs meaning Central Jersey. Central Jersey people or North Jersey people decide to move to South Jersey. And they go down by Delaware and Cape May and stuff, and they live in the sticks, you know, Pine Barrens. Everything's building up. I remember seeing stuff from growing up. There was woods and farms to now there's 25, 30 units of townhouses on a little swat of ground, and then right in front of it they always got to have that mall, which is your laundromat, your video store, which they don't have anymore. So it's a laundromat, a nail salon, and a pizzeria, and maybe something else thrown in with it. Definitely different from what it was 30 years ago. And everything is good. Change is good. And also, change could be bad. So, when planning for this trip, you got to look at the moving companies. You got to look at how am I going to get this stuff there? What should I take? What shouldn't I take? So that means that you need to really sit down and put a list together on what expenses are going to cost you to move. Um, and be careful with moving companies. I went just as the COVID epidemic was wearing down, you know, and they had the rallies up in Canada. So I was able to go through the border with them searching it and being allowed to go through Canada to Alaska. There's really two routes to come here. It's by barge, by ferry, on the waterways, or driving up through the Alcan and coming into Alaska that way. So, planning, how much money you got, how much money can you use, how much money can you spend, how much money you're going to need to get stuff that you need up here so you can move into a house or into off the grid. You know, everybody is ready to jump, but they don't know what the cost factors are going to be. Roughly, looking at moving companies, a lot of moving companies at that time would not move because of the COVID safety things in place. You can get a container, which means you got to buy it, then you got to have somebody truck it to your location. be able to dump it down onto your property, and then you can extract everything when you want at a slow pace. Moving companies generally, like if you went down the eastern seaboard, might be about $5,000, we'll say. Don't quote me on it. Just understand how much it is. Um, Here it's about $40,000 to move, and then you got to be careful because, like, I was looking at stuff and went through a situation, and I'll name them out, is New Horizon moving and storage of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, because I'm still trying to get funds back that uh, I canceled the move with them after I found out that they were not a very truthful company, and lost several $1,000s to them, which I have to work on through the legal system because that's how it works. So you learn from your experiences. So that's why I looked at this and said, let me put this together for other people to look at. Moving, yes, definitely look at it. If you can get pods, use the pods. Things have changed now. The states have opened up. You're able to move stuff. What do you come here with? I would say, again, come with the bare minimum of maybe the furniture and everything. And why do I say that? You pay by the foot. So if you got vehicles, that's the other thing you gotta look at. How am I gonna get all my vehicles up there? Vehicles are very expensive up here, used. You can go look on the marketplace and see how they are, and the marketplace meaning Facebook. How are you going to get from point A to point B and your property? So, looking at things, the roads are pretty flat, pretty mountainous, pretty scary. I've done 4 trips through the Alcan in the time span of 3 months, or 2.5 months, I should say. Um, of course, that was when the gas prices were super high, and so it was expensive, and that's why I keep looking at this, that this is something informative for somebody to see. So you decide to go, you're planning, you're putting money aside, you're looking for a house, you're going to get a big bang for your buck. Up here, you got to be cautious, what you're looking at versus what's out there. And it's, like I said, I'm really not doing the off the grid routine because that's a whole different animal. But you do need stuff for, if you got a couple acres. And that's one of the things. It's not desolate up here. You can go and live in a town. Your taxes will be similar to probably what you're paying. Or you can go out and buy a couple acres in a house, and your taxes will be a little bit cheaper. You're a little bit more out of the mainstream of things in a sense, but everything costs money. So driving up here, one of the things you should do is, if you have trailers and vehicles, make sure they're tuned up before you go. Um, Make sure you got extra gas. Stop at the gas stations when you notice you got a half a tank. I'd stop because you don't know when the gas station's going to be next. One of the things I did invest in was the Garmin systems, which is a GPS satellite receiver and transmitter. One of the things I tell people is there's a 2 telephone pole rule. So go outside and look at those telephone poles in front of your house. You see how far they are. If you don't have telephone poles, look for the green things in the ground. You go and you look at them, you say, oh, that's not bad. Every 2 telephone poles or 2 little green things, that's the amount of cellular service you'll have going through a town. So by the second one, you start with your signal strength here. By the time you're out of town, it's here, and there's no more signal. So the Garmin works out well because if you do break down or somehow, God forbid, crash or anything, you can get somebody to help you, and you can set the alerts on there, and it works rather well. No glitches with it. It can Bluetooth to your phone. So yes, it does work really well. It's worth a couple dollars to spend for it. Driving. I don't know if you can see the little pictures that I got in the back here. I got the warning, be careful, bison. Well, there's things that live in the Yukon that are, there, and there's buffalo out there, and there's moose, and there's caribou, and there's mountain goats, and everything. And yeah, you really should pay attention to it. So, as you're driving, I said about gas, you really don't want to break down where there's a bunch of little live animals that might hurt you. They are their own personality. So be careful about the Yukon, and respect it. It's definitely a long road, and it gets longer every time you take it. And when it's black, it's black. There's no lights on the road at all. So if you're used to suburban living, guess what? You might as well go to that little off-road store and start mounting lights on your vehicle, because you're going to need them to drive at night, unless you feel like doing it in 10 to 15 days. Okay, so I talked about things, planning, all right, supplies. Um, I got the little thing up there on the screen, if you can see it. It says Hawaii and Alaska upcharge shipping. So if you go and look at Home Depot, we'll say for example, and you see like, I don't know, maybe a snowplow or something that you want for your ATV, and then you look down at the shipping and it does not ship to Alaska, which means if you need it, you kind of got to buy it here and then trailer it up there. And it sounds a little time consuming, but you're going to pay a lot more for certain items, because for stuff to get shipped here, it costs more money, which means then it's going to be sold for more money. And the same thing with Hawaii. If it has to go by boat, it goes by boat. If it goes by plane, it goes by plane. But you're still going to pay that extra amount of money. So if you can get certain things, and again, planning is the thing, make sure you get it. If you can buy a couple of trailers and mount them to your vehicles, and that might be a smart way to move certain stuff. You know, you want to make sure that you're able to have the supplies here to do any repairs, oil changes, or stuff like that. You got to kind of have a little car experience in a sense, unless you really want to just pay a little bit of money and, to get something done. So that's something to look at. So then, everybody's like, "Oh, how much is the fish up here? It's got to be cheaper." Not really. It's the same price. Um, you're looking at stuff, and yeah, it's nice that it's from here, but you're still paying the same money you would pay at in the lower 48 to get that item. So then moving prices, like I said, I spent about $34,000 to $40,000 to move here, and that's not counting the U-Haul, which it was about $4,500 to rent one way to come here. And so, like I says, be prepared for that number, because if you can see it, and you can look this stuff up. This is stuff I pulled off the internet just for average prices, and they're pretty much on point. It's going to cost you a couple $1,000s to move something. That's why you got to be really cautious on what you stick on that moving truck. If you have stuff that, you got 3 couches and you only really use the one couch, maybe it's better off either donate it, sell it uh, where you're living, and then just take that little extra cash and bring it up here, and then again, go to a store in Anchorage or wherever you pick and get the stuff. And it might take a month or two to get, but at least you got furniture again. And like I said, when we're looking at packing and moving stuff, you definitely want to wrap the stuff right. You want to take extra time on certain things to get done. Um, it was supposed to be a 45-day run for the property to come from New Jersey to Alaska. It took about 2.5 to 3 months for it to show up. And even after that, I was missing a couple cases of items, which again were going through claims, because what are you going to do? That's how it works. Some stuff disappeared, and a lot of stuff was damaged. Picture frames are not, something I look at. Was, yeah, it stunk, but like I had pictures that from family that I can't replace, because they were crushed and cut with the glass, and they were wrapped with bubble wrap and everything, and they were demolished. You know, You don't know what that box goes through to get here on a moving truck. Um, and definitely, like it says, pay attention. Maybe you can get the pods or stuff. Things are a little different now, so you're able to use those type of items to get shipped, or you can use like van lines, but again, expect for a very big bill because somehow that stuff has to come here. Um, if you have guns or anything like that, your probably best bet is you're gonna ship them through a FFL dealer in whatever state you're in, unless you come by boat and you have to declare it. Is they have to get shipped to an FFL over here, and they're going to charge you holding fees. So definitely do your homework on that. So if you have a couple of guns, I'm all about guns and everything for safety and for target practicing and hunting if you have to. But definitely want to be cautious on how much it's going to cost that $200 gun to get up here. And if you can get the gun here, is it $100 more? It still breaks out even than when you shipped it. So you have to look at that. Like I said, there's two ways to travel. You can go by road or you can go by boat. So be very cautious with moving companies. Never use brokers. Never get an ironclad uh, explanation of what's covered, what's not covered. Inventory list, because that way when something's damaged or missing, you know which box is missing. Again, it's a real stinky deal when you open up boxes and notice stuff's missing that actually meant something to you, and you could have put it on the trailer yourself that you drove up. And like I said about purchasing trailers before, if you go and you buy the trailers, you can sell them up here and probably break even, if not a couple dollars more, because trailers are a way of life up here. Everybody uses trailers, and again, they use Facebook Marketplace here, like what you would use the want ads in the newspaper back in the day, or um, those 10 different or 20 different type of websites that sell stuff on you. So buy car, like I said before, you want to make sure you got extra fuel, extra tires for the ride. You want to prep yourself getting fuel, because again, like when you see like maybe next couple segments, I might have like a run through the Alcan with pictures and or videos, and it'll show you that there's nothing out there. So understand what you're getting yourself into. The Alaska Highway again runs from uh, Canada up into Alaska. When they look at you and they have the little GPS thing and it says you're by Juneau and you're going to Anchorage, you can't drive through the glaciers over there to get there. They don't have a tunnel. So again, you're still driving up through Dawson's Creek and everything, where they made the TV series, and then getting into Alaska that way. And there's 3 roads. You can't get lost. It's a big circle with a peace sign. Make sure everything is planned. Like I said, getting that trailer and getting your vehicle ready and whatnot. I'm patriotic. I like the flags on the back of my vehicles. And I got gas on there. It's something that I wasn't joking about. You got to be ready for a situation. Make sure you got the jacks are working. And if you got tools, bring your tools. Like I said, this is nothing to do with off grid. This is just explaining what you need to do to get here and at least stabilize yourself here, so you're not spending a large amount of funds getting supplies again that you threw out or you got rid of. The roads, right now the Yukon's got snow. I got snow. Everybody got snow. Just make sure your vehicle's ready for those. Going through the mountains, and if you got to have chains, you get chains. If you got a 4-wheel drive, make sure that 4-wheel drive is working the right way. And again, animals, you just don't think you're just the only person on that road. Especially with off-road lights, you're going to need them driving in the dark, because if you don't, you see a little glare of something, and next thing you know, out pops a 7 foot tall moose, and you're like, oh, I didn't see you. And then they smash into your car, and things break. Going through the Alcan and stuff, it's beautiful. It's something, if you're not used to seeing the outdoors, it feels great. You're trying to get to the end game of getting into Alaska. So take pictures. Like I said, Buffalo do run the roads in certain areas. They have signs up that says next 20 miles, bison walking around. It depends on the time of the season. So you definitely want to make sure that you're prepared for everything that goes on. So, like I said, this is more or less prepping yourself. You know, Next couple of videos, like I said, I'm going to go over prices and everything um, on supplies. So if you get rid of some of the crazy stuff that you got, it cuts down on moving costs. If you get the trailers, you pull it, fine, so be it. If you want to move your guns yourself, you gotta, make sure you're following the guidelines that are from state to state to state, and follow how to transport them as well. Make sure you have all your paperwork too. So it's something to look at. I hope like some people get some information out of this. Um, Understand that I would take a trip out here. This was a 2 year prep for the most part about wanting to go, testing the waters. Uh, Jobs don't or out here, but again, it's like every place else. The jobs are there, but um, you got to get something close to home, or you got to expect to drive a little bit. So what I have here are some of the things that you should have in your possession when you're getting ready to go. It's called a milepost. They make it every year. It's a couple dollars and whatnot. It gives you tracks and stuff. It's something really good to use for camping and whatnot because it gives you explanations of stuff that you're going to run into or see, places to eat, places for fuel, the distance of things. Uh, it is a must to have. And some of the other things are I would talk to a couple of people, like when we were on a boat and whatnot, about Alaska, and everybody made the same joke. It's the only place that everything's trying to kill you at once. You know, there's they don't have signs for the animals that say you can't come on the property. You know, I have black bear by me. There's grizzlies another 30 miles north of me. A couple hundred miles of goats and stuff in the mountains. So they're stretched out, but they're again like I see moose every day by my house, at least 1 to 5 of different ones. One's been sitting out here for about 3 weeks, and they came down because of the snow in the mountains, so they moved themselves down. And wildlife can kill you. You got to be cautious. Some of the silly things that people do can get you in a lot of trouble here. Is feeding the moose or bears, because once they get a taste that somebody's giving them food, they might get a little pissy and come back at you pretty hard. You know, so yeah, don't feed the wildlife. So, like I said, I think I covered everything I really wanted to explain about it. And it is planning. It is stocking your money. Uh, we know now that the market's taking a big dumping with high interest and stuff, and it might be a little cautious to do a move now versus when it was decent and ready to move. Like here, it once we were looking for a house, if the house went on the market at say 8 a.m., it was sold by mid noon. It was under contract, so it's hard looking without somebody being here. So somebody has to stay, maybe take care of the pets or the kids. Somebody has to go looking at houses and property with a little checklist of what you're looking for. You know, how far you want to be from town. Like I said, there's 600,000 miles up here. Mm. And, you know, my nearest neighbor is across the street, but the nearest clump of neighbors is like 4 miles away. And a clump meaning maybe 3 or 4 families. And then we're about 19 miles, 20 miles north of Palmer, and that's a nice sized town. I think they got a population of 6 or 7 thousand, and again, it's different. One of the things I didn't touch base on, which I would probably go over in the next segment, or I'll repeat it, is don't think that you're gonna go around the corner to get like a loaf of bread or things like that, because you're gonna have to travel. Depending on where you go. So I hope everybody got something out of this. Um, like it, I appreciate it. This is Mr. A. I hope you got something out of today. Thank you so much.